I decided to go home to California a little bit earlier than expected, and on the flight home, the stewardess was kind enough to give me lots of wine, and people on the flight were so kind because I was sobbing uncontrollably. I felt like I was in a rom-com I didn't ask to be in. So I had just spent a lovely Thanksgiving holiday with my family in California, and I was in transit back to New York, where I was living at the time, and I was super excited because me and my boyfriend of 2 years were gonna celebrate being together for 2 years, and I was pretty sure he was gonna ask me to move in with him, and I was super excited because that year we had also planned to spend the holidays together. So I was gonna go back to New York. We were gonna do all of the fun New York holiday type things, and then he was gonna fly back with me to California to spend Christmas with my family. My flight got canceled and switched 4 different times because of a snowstorm. But then finally I got to beautiful Newark, New Jersey. So tired because I took a red eye, ended up sleeping in the airport. So I was exhausted. Finally get home, and my boyfriend was waiting there for me with flowers, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's happening. But I just remained calm, and I was so hungry, so we went to one of my favorite places to go grab a bite to eat, and he was being kind of weird. But then there was a moment where I was like, wait a minute, is this our last meal together? And he said, no, that's just, you're being anxious. And I was like, okay, he's for sure gonna ask me. We got back to my apartment, and he said to me, I'm breaking up with you. I was devastated. I was so excited to do all the cliche things, and I had just misinterpreted signals so badly, and just kind of put a cloud over the whole holiday season. The following week I lost my job, which is fine, that happens. It was just a very, very rough week. So I decided to go home to California a little bit earlier than expected, and on the flight home, the stewardess was kind enough to give me lots of wine, and people on the flight were so kind because I was sobbing uncontrollably. I felt like I was in a rom-com I didn't ask to be in, and just had everything just ripped from underneath me. Lost my job, got broken up with. Now I'm on this flight back home for the holidays. The holidays are a classic time that people like to ask you, who are you seeing and how's work going? And it's like, well, both of those things are not going great. But all in all, I was able to find some laughter in it because it seemed so sad.
My story began when my parents and I decided to fly up to New York City for the holidays. We were really excited to experience New York around Christmas time, to see the tree and the lights and see Broadway shows and just enjoy the New York atmosphere. So we're in Greensboro, North Carolina, and we headed to the airport expecting to take off around 6:30 in the evening. And so when we get there, we learn that our flight has been delayed inevitably, which is kind of weird. We're like, okay, weather seems all right. I wonder what's going on. And we learned that there is a bomb cyclone storm that has formed over Newark, New Jersey. And I'm a very nervous flyer in general, I really, really hate it. And so upon hearing this news, I am an absolute train wreck, and we're sitting at the gate and I'm just panicking, thinking about my inevitable death. Cute, very holiday of me. And so we're in the gate for probably 3 or so hours, and the pilot comes in from the plane, and he lets us know that because of the size of our plane, they tend to not be able to safely fly and land in winds that exceed 45 miles an hour. The winds that Newark was experiencing were around 60. We still actually took off. Honestly, it was a decent flight for the first 45 minutes. Things were normal. It wasn't super turbulent. We were just hanging, and maybe that was the Ativan talking. But it was fine. It was fine until we started our descent into Newark, and that is when all hell broke loose. As we started descent, the plane starts to do this little side-to-side motion. I'm not feeling so hot, and my mom and my dad look as terrified as your parents could ever look, and that is really not a great thing to see. I have both hands across the aisle and with my mom, and we are just squeezing for dear life. People start screaming and crying, and my mom and I over the right wing can see the way the plane is tilting. It looks like the right wing is going to smash into the runway if we continue to go any lower. She looks at me and she just says, brace. As we get very close to the ground and think, plane actually shoots back up into the air, full speed, and we are very high up very quickly, which I don't know how I feel about at this point. I'm not sure if I want to be hitting the ground really furiously, or if I want to be shooting back into the air. And the pilot politely comes over the loudspeaker. All right, we're gonna try that again. Or, folks, if it's not looking pretty, we'll just divert to Philly. Oh my god, that wasn't the most calming way to put it. As people continue to chant for Philly, you start our descent again. Plane is still doing these very sharp swinging motions while bouncing. I'm just thinking, like, someone in this universe, something, get me on that ground safely. We actually did land. It was more of a smack. People are cheering and clapping, which I would normally think is very annoying at the end of a flight, but I would say it was warranted in this case. I had to think the entire 4-day weekend about the fact that I would have to board another plane in a few days and do it all again. So I guess don't with the bomb cyclone.
I was born in Indonesia and I moved to America during the holidays. So the flight from Indonesia to America, we had a layover in Germany. I remember just the TSA stopping us, and back when I was 9 years old, I thought, oh my gosh, are we getting arrested? We could not figure out what he was saying. The officer actually held gifts that we were gonna give to our family in America, and they were like, oh, you can't bring lotion. And I just remember my mom being so nervous, especially us traveling for the first time. So we flew from Frankfurt to America to JFK in New York City, and I just remember it being so gloomy and I was not excited at all. But when I stepped out of that airport, I was just so amazed. So when you go from JFK airport to New Jersey, we had to take a bridge, and I remember there was only one lane going to the bridge, and we weren't even on the bridge yet, but we were going toward the bridge, and it was that little exit way where there's only one way. It wasn't even 20 minutes. The car decided to break down in the middle of the freaking bridge. You can just imagine the panic. We're stuck there for, I'd say, an hour and a half, almost 2 hours, and just listening to people cursing at us. I mean, I didn't understand back then, but it's oh my god, is this America? Is this how they greet us? I mean, that was my welcome to America. It was, no joke, the longest day of my life and the most horrifying.